This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, hosted by Jerry and Mark, your one-stop shop for all horrible movie reviews. From the latest blockbusters and independent films to classics, let Mark and Jerry convince you the world is a dangerous place, though often good for a laugh. Now come and listen to the Horror Movie Show, if you dare.
Howdy folks, Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you another episode of the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com and also the Crypt and iTunes and Podfeed and Lord knows where else we are. I don't know.
Just do a search on Jerry and Mark and you'll find us.
Well, or Horror Movie Show.
And that too.
Yeah. Okay, so, we got lots to talk about today. We're going to start by talking about the last few episodes of The Walking Dead. Season 4, so, of course, as always, spoilers. That's what we do. We're up to
13.
Yeah, number 13 in the 4th season, so there's only 3 more episodes to go this year, and then...
the second half of the season is going kind of slow.
Do you think so?
I want to see the group back together.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm waiting for it to happen, and we keep getting these little vignettes about groups.
Yeah.
And that's all fine and dandy, and I don't... To me...
But we're learning about the characters.
I was just getting there.
Yeah.
If we're going to learn so much about these characters and then they're going to kill them off, I'm going to get peeved.
Well, nobody's died so far.
I know. But, they will kill somebody at the end of the season. They got it. They always do.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like...
My money's on Bob Stuckey.
If they keep killing off these people just when you get to know them... If they keep doing that, I mean, you're going to lose interest because you don't want to invest that much time.
Where were we when we talked about the show last time? Had Carol popped up again?
The last show that we talked about was when Michonne getting together with Carl and Rick, right?
That's the end of the first one of the
and
number
that's
9.
where they start off again
right.
in the 11th show.
Right.
It's about them in the place again, and Michonne and Carl go off to find some stuff, and these invaders come into the house.
That's right, the Marauders, yes, a gang. They look like a biker gang, and these are real cutthroat villains. And Rick, because he's just comatose, he was beaten so badly by the governor, plus he was shot, so he's in rough shape, and he's sleeping in the house just looking after the place while Michonne and Carl have gone off to hunt for groceries.
We also see Glenn waking up prison and getting together with that girl.
Yeah, what's her name? Got it all written down here, folks. She's the last survivor of the governor's second group of obviously really dim people. They're willing to follow him with just a couple of words.
Yeah.
My goodness, I can't believe it.
Yeah. We talked about that show, and then our last time we were reminiscing about the show. So we really have only 2 new shows, the 12th and the 13th show that we haven't really dealt with here. Okay,
well, we've got Bob Stuckey and Sasha, and what's her name? The absolutely lovely Maggie, Lauren Cohan's character. The 3 of them are on their own. Everybody is sort of pointing towards this hoped-for sanctuary called Terminus.
Yes.
Everybody seems to be headed in that direction.
Yeah, the sign keeps popping up along the railway tracks.
Yeah.
And everyone seems to intersect the railway tracks at certain points and see the sign.
Right.
Really, they're tracked towards that. But at the same time, Daryl and Beth, they find what they say is a church in IMDb, but I didn't think it was a church.
I thought it was like a funeral home.
Yeah, funeral home, but they say it was a church.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that's rubbish.
Anyway, funeral home kind of place.
Yeah.
And it's stocked
it's full of coffins.
It's well stocked.
Yeah, it's sort of like the little family-run funeral home in 6 Feet Under, where it is both the home of the undertakers and also their business.
Right.
Because there are...
So there's a morgue in there and all sorts of things. I'd love to live in a morgue.
There's some nice corpses all laid out, and
they look kind of fresh.
Right.
So were they zombies at some point?
I assume so. Yeah.
And they killed them and then they dressed them up nicely to bury them?
Somebody is looking after them.
Yeah, and we never do meet these people.
No, they never show. Yeah.
And there's a whole thing with...
They're off at their weekend place, their cabin in the woods.
Daryl and Beth kind of get very close, and they both are struggling with their own little things.
Right.
Daryl is, I guess, blaming himself that everything fell apart again, and that Herschel got killed, and he kept saying I could have done something, I should have done something, I didn't do anything.
Yes, and that was the number 12. That episode pretty much focused on those two characters.
And Beth wanted to get a drink.
Yeah,
she wanted to get liquored up.
All the young people are causing trouble. We got Carl revolting against his father, and now what's her name? Beth is also looking for booze.
They find moonshine.
Yeah, well, yes, in fact, Daryl and Michonne had already found this place, and it brings up all kinds of memories for Daryl because his father had a similar hideaway in the woods, and that's where he and his brother Merle spent a lot of their childhood getting whooped by the old man.
He brings that up.
Oh, yeah.
There are stories.
We also see why Daryl doesn't drink anymore, because he's a really mean drunk.
Yeah. Even though he becomes a little more sympathetic, and he was still drinking towards the end, right before they burned down the house.
Yeah. No, I think he stopped drinking by then. He stops drinking after he loses his temper with her. He scares her, and he scares himself. But, hey, there's not a lot of drinking in the zombie apocalyptic world.
And once again, I mean, they do the same thing over and over again. They hear something outside. They think it's the dog that was previously knocked these cans that he put up there to make noise. Right. And of course, he goes to the door expecting to see the dog. And he opens it, and there's like 24 zombies sitting there. Yeah. And then you hear them. Right. Before he opens the door, you can't hear them.
Yeah, you think he'd have peeked out the window.
Yeah, you would think there were slats there, just right on the door, just look through the door to see if there's anything there. No, they throw caution to the wind and get overrun by zombies. Now, I hate it when you can't hear zombies until you see them, when they're always going, and especially like 24 of them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
No, and it's pretty noisy.
It just bugs me when to me, it's a cheap scare. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, they didn't want them playing house. Plus, two of them were getting very close.
Yes.
Like love has bloomed for Daryl. Yeah. With young Beth.
Yes, that. It just got to that point where they're looking at each other when all of a sudden they hear something outside and everything goes.
Hell breaks loose.
Yes, and that was good. They killed a lot of zombies, and they did get away.
Oh, they didn't. Daryl did. Well, she dives out a window at his insistence and
gets taken.
Yeah, she's gone. She's off in a car.
Yeah,
we assume that she was kidnapped, but we don't know.
We don't know where the car went, and we never get back to it until, at least not yet.
No. So,
and then Daryl meets up with the good old boys, that new troop of rednecks.
Well, the same guys who menaced Rick.
He's walking with them now. So we'll see what happens there. That'll be interesting.
They recognize him as a hillbilly type and a useful, dangerous man.
Yeah.
So he'll bide his time, and of course, nobody can survive on their own, not even Superman. So
really? Superman can do anything.
Daryl is Superman. The two most competent members of the group are Daryl and Michonne. But Michonne makes that realization early. In fact, in the first, was that number 9, the first episode after the break this season? Yeah. That, if she is going to go back to living on her own, what kind of life is that?
Yeah, she doesn't want to live on her own anymore. She doesn't want to go back to there.
Yeah.
And we don't see Rick and her for 3 shows now?
Yeah, it's a while.
It's like, okay, it's time. Let's get Rick back in.
They'll drag everybody together. I'm sure everybody's going to meet up at Terminus.
Does that mean they don't have to pay them for the shows they're not in?
They would be filming a bunch of scenes all at the same time.
Like they could be shooting 3 different episodes at the same time.
Oh, of course they are. Different directors.
Yeah.
Different sets.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have more to say about that show probably when it's all wrapped up for the year. Now, I saw Robocop, the new Robocop, but Mark still hasn't seen that. So I'll just say briefly that I thought it was all right.
It's getting panned. Everybody keeps making fun of it.
Well, there just isn't much point. It's like the Carrie remake that we talked about recently. There's no point to it other than to make money.
Right.
It's not better.
No?
It isn't as good. But it isn't a terrible movie. If the original Robocop didn't exist, this would be a good sci-fi horror type movie. But
the original was a black comedy, right? A parody of
Al Verhoeven's movies seem to be like that.
Yeah. It's like what corporates are going to do in the future and things like that, and how everyone's going to survive with the corporates being so huge.
This has got Gary Oldman playing the chief doctor who battling much of the time against Michael Keaton, who's the head of the Omnicorp company, and Michael Keaton playing a complete villain. Who else is in it?
How well does he do at that?
Who?
Michael Keaton.
Oh, he's all right. He's okay. He hasn't done much the last few years.
Yeah, well, he was Batman.
Yeah, briefly. A funny Batman. Who else? Samuel L. Jackson is in it. Now, I would rather talk about it after you've seen it. Jackie Earle Haley is in it. He plays a villain. Abby Cornish is the love interest. And Joel Kinnaman plays Alex Murphy, the Robocop dude. And, everybody is competent. Everybody is fine. The effects are good, but it doesn't have the heart of the original. Oh, I'll tell you one thing. When they strip away the armor and you get to see what Robocop looks like underneath the exoskeleton, oh boy, he's basically a face, part of a brain, and lungs. and he's got a hand. It's attached by a robot arm, but he's still got his right hand.
Oh, great.
Other than that, so he's about, 10 pounds of human being, and the rest is machinery.
Sounds good.
Oh, it's great effects. What can you say? Of course it's great effects, but goodness, just no heart to it. And I mean that literally. No heart, just lungs. But we'll get into that more on another occasion. It is
no heart. Huh?
It is worth watching. I thought it was worth watching. Okay, now we got a movie from way back in the day, 1981, The Howling. Mark said, well, if we're going to talk about the original Howling, why don't we talk about the sequel? And I luckily realized we already had, and it was so bad. It was
that's the thing. I mean, it's like you tend to forget what you've done.
Especially if they're stinkers.
We've got 138 shows or something, 9 shows.
This is 139.
Yeah, and in each one of those shows, we do like 5 movies or so, or average. So that's a lot of movies to remember.
We're working hard for you folks.
And I remember it coming out, the Reborn part, and we never did do. When we do sequels, we tend to talk about the originals as well. But in this case, we didn't.
I'd never seen it until just recently.
Yes, I can't remember if I've seen it because honestly, this is 81. That's a long time ago.
Yes,
but I seem to remember
Mark and I were in kindergarten at the time.
Yeah, we were graduating from kindergarten. Yes.
So directed by Joe Dante, and this is to me the most interesting thing, written by a guy named Terrence H. Winkless, but also co-written with John Sayles, who went on to create many great movies. He acts as well. He has a small role in the movie. But he became a big noise with the return of the Secaucus 7 and a whole bunch of independent movies.
And Joe Dante got to do Gremlins.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And he did quite a few of those Spielbergish horror kind of things.
Well, Spielberg's take on The Outer Limits. Some years back, Amazing Tales, I think that was called. So the 1981 version, The Howling, it stars Dee Wallace. What a... she's still making horror movies, but my goodness, she was a common actress in those movies back in the day. She's the mom in Cujo, and wasn't she also the mom in E.T.?
Yeah, it could have been E.T. or it could have been...
I think it's E.T., yes. What? You're not thinking Poltergeist?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Poltergeist. No.
Yeah, no, she's the mom in E.T. Yeah, she was around a lot, and she was just recently, we talked about her as one of the 3 weird sisters in Rob Zombie's latest movie.
Right. But she's so bad in this. She's the worst actress in this movie.
Well, it's not a very good movie.
It's again very 80s.
It's just
80s
awful.
styles and everything like that. But no, I can't say it's a terrible movie. The guy who did the special effects, Rick Baker, went on to do American Werewolf in London.
Sure, yeah.
He actually left this movie in the middle of this movie to go do American Werewolf.
It isn't until the last 15, 20 minutes of this movie that you really get the special effects. And that makes up for a lot of the slow dullness early on in this movie. Because it's like, dull, really good, and then it ends.
Yeah. Definitely, it was spearheading the special effects department at the end. They spent a lot of budget on the transformation of werewolves.
Yeah. So you have Dee Wallace playing Karen White, who's the main character. She's a news anchor, and she has been following a serial killer who, obviously, to us anyway, is not a normal serial killer. He's a werewolf, and they're supposed to meet, sort of a news story scoop for her, and he attacks her, and of course she then is on the verge of becoming a werewolf. And her mentor, the big expert on serial killers, Dr. George Wagner, is played by Patrick McNee.
Yes.
The
Avengers.
Dude from the Avengers, yeah. And he gets Karen to come to his retreat, and his retreat is full of people like good old John Carradine and Slim Pickens.
I like him.
Yeah. Well, Slim Pickens all the way back to all those westerns, and of course he rides the H-bomb down to Russia in Dr. Strangelove. Boys, looks like we toe-to-toe nuclear war with the Ruskies.
Yeah, I love his voice is just wonderful.
Yeah, he's great. And Kevin McCarthy plays Karen's boss at the station, Fred Francis, another great actor from back in the day, working on the original version of
Invasion of
the Body Snatchers. Yeah, he's the hero of the original movie, although of course everyone is doomed. And Robert Picardo, the doctor from Star Trek Voyager, shows up. He in fact is the serial killer werewolf from the beginning of the movie, Eddie Quist.
Oh, is that him?
That's him. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't think he was around that long.
Looking very slim and young, which of course he was. So yeah, I mean, Mark and I already told you it's worth seeing, but all the good stuff is really in that last 20 minutes, half hour of the movie.
Well, first of all, that attack in the porno palace that she goes to meet up with Eddie, and she can't remember what happened to her after she gets in there, and he talks to her a few times, and he transformed behind her.
Yeah.
And we don't see that.
No.
We can hear his voice get really growly.
Yeah.
And she turns around, and then the police guy hears her scream.
Yeah.
Police guys run into the thing and shoot through the door.
Right.
Now that I couldn't believe. I mean, what kind of cop is going to shoot point blank through a door when your victim is on the other side of that door as well? Yeah. Fortunately, she's sprawled on the floor when he shoots.
Better luck than Pistorius, I must say.
And Eddie gets away.
Right.
And then when they ask her what happened, she says, I don't know.
She can't remember a thing. And she's extremely traumatized.
And so she goes to
But we don't find out until later that this is because she's been infected with the werewolf.
Was she infected at that point?
Of course. That was the full moon, and then it's going to be, a month, and that gives her time to get to this camp with McNee and all that, and meet all the other werewolves, because that's what the camp is. It's like a
camp of werewolves.
Yeah.
It's like a retreat.
And Patrick McNee, who also is a werewolf, he and the calmer werewolves are trying to live off rats and cats and dogs and stuff, and not murder human beings.
Right.
But you have a lot of werewolves who are saying, "Oh, to hell with that! We want to feed properly."
There's a lot of movies out there that kind of base their storyline on that as well, because the young kids
all the
want to
Twilight movies.
Yeah, the young kids want to go wild, and all the older guys saying, "Hey, we just want to survive."
Right.
So it's not a new thing now, but it was actually kind of original.
Oh yeah. No, I knew this movie by reputation long before I watched it all the way through, and I'd seen chunks of it on TV, but I'd never watched it beginning to end.
I mean, the budget for it is like $1 million and $81.
Is that right?
And $1 million, I guess that's nowadays you can't even make a pilot for that for a TV show.
Yeah.
And it grossed at the time around 18 mil, so a good return from the profit, which is why there were so many sequels.
I was just startled that John Sayles wrote the screenplay for it, because I think of him as a real cinematic artist, writer, director.
Well, you have to start somewhere.
I know. Yeah.
It was very dated, But at the same time, I was pleased to see all these old actors that you haven't seen in ages.
That's right. Really nice to see John Carradine.
Yeah.
Very old man in this, but, he'd been around. He worked with Lugosi and Peter Lorre.
Yeah, some of them were on the twilight of their career.
Oh, definitely. Slim Pickens.
And others were new and up and comers.
Doesn't Slim Pickens, he plays like the sheriff.
Yeah.
With that gut hanging over his pants.
I liked it when they turned him into a werewolf.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
You didn't see it, but you just see him as a werewolf.
Yeah.
A paunchy werewolf.
Yes, and John Carradine's werewolf was also pretty bizarre.
Yeah, it was like Boris Karloff.
Skinny old werewolf.
Gothic werewolf, yeah. And I liked the way that the reporters were trying to get them to get that story. And she kept calling for help, and the only guy who would come was that other reporter guy.
And the woman who's like... who gets it? The assistant at the station.
Yeah, the assistant of the station comes first, and then
the other guy is like the cameraman, I think.
I think he's more of a sort of like the producer of the show or something like that.
And their little team, the two of them, and
their team reporters.
Yeah,
she's in front of the camera, he's kind of behind the camera.
And then they're following the story as well, and they're starting to figure out that, in fact, there is something supernatural going on here. And it's funny because it's very much a parallel story. Even though they know the Karen White character, Dee Wallace's character, they don't have a lot of interaction because she's on her own. She's in this camp and so on.
It's nice to be back in the 80s when you're not carrying phones and you have to find a phone that works.
Well, they get around that in modern movies by simply having no signal or
Yeah. But I thought at the end that Dee Wallace kind of looked like a cat.
Yeah.
She didn't look like a real savage. She didn't have the snout.
No.
She didn't have the snout that she should have had.
She's a cute werewolf.
And it didn't take her very long to change.
No.
Considering how long it took those other guys to change.
Hey, makes good TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you got to do it before the commercial.
You see, you don't find news reporters like that anymore.
No, I know. People who are really willing to dig into the story.
And become a werewolf.
So now we talked recently about Sharni Vincent's latest movie, the remake of the Australian flick from the 70s, Patrick.
Yes.
Patrick, Evil Awakens. And that's
it's going to be out on DVD very shortly.
A new movie, yeah. And Mark hadn't seen the remake, so he has seen it now. What did you think of it?
I liked it. I liked it better than the original because it was less dry.
Right.
It was more sinister. When you were describing it, when you said they were in a hospital and all, I always envisioned a new hospital.
Right.
This thing is not a new hospital.
No, it's in a clinic.
Yeah, in an old house or whatever mansion that have peeling walls and old elevators and.
So just in case you didn't hear our previous show where we talked about Patrick, the idea is that this is a hospital for comatose patients, for the most part. They're right out of it. And the doctor, played by Charles Dance, is running experiments, and his prize patient is Patrick.
Yes.
And Patrick, unlike the rest of the comatose patients, is not wasted. He looks good. He appears to be perfectly healthy, lying there, eyes wide open, and Sharni is the new nurse hired to look after him specifically, make sure his eyes stay wet, that sort of thing, lubricated, I think.
They don't mention that in the second movie, but yeah, that's one of her duties would be that.
No, I thought that was mentioned right at the beginning.
I thought that was at the first movie.
Yeah, maybe it was. Anyway, so Sharni starts to realize that the cruel experiments that the doctor, played by Charles Dance, is performing on Patrick are really disgusting, like Nazi war crime type experiments. And she tries to defend him, but the thing about Patrick is that he has telekinetic abilities, and he can use the computer, the monitor that is hooked up to him, and
he actually uses the keyboard.
That's right, yeah, he can press the keyboard with his mind. Now, the thing that got me about these movies, the original as well, is that the fact that he is communicating telekinetically with his nurse, wouldn't that make the nurse, freak out? But she just accepts it in both movies. She just accepts that, all right, this comatose man is talking to me with his mind.
Yes.
I thought that was the funniest thing.
And the fact that all these weird things are happening, like people burning their hands, crushing glass.
And they're all enemies of Patrick.
And it doesn't even occur to her that, hey, you know...
He's doing it or
anything like that, especially when he has telekinetic abilities and all that. I mean, it's just... And she's there to the end to protect him.
Yeah.
Even when he's trying to kill her.
Yeah.
She seems to be sympathetic to him.
Yeah, she's a good nurse.
Yeah, she was.
What'd you think of Sharney?
I liked it. I liked the whole movie. I thought the remake was darker and more sinister than the original.
Right. Much better movie. Same general story, but far better actors.
And the whole thing about the head matron being the daughter of the head doctor.
That was a nice little extra.
So
and I love Rachel Griffiths.
And
she's
the whole
terrific.
dynamics there. And what it didn't make as clear is her being so afraid of Patrick.
Right.
The matron didn't want to come into the same room, didn't want to have anything to do with it, just want to stay away from Patrick.
Right.
She knew he was evil and she didn't warn anyone.
Well, no, because nobody would have believed anybody else saying it, I suppose. Yeah, it was kind of weird that the matron character, she's in fear of her father, she's in fear of Patrick, she's in fear of just about everything. Well, and she's even scared of the nurse. Really, because the nurse starts to realize what's going on, you know. But yeah, far superior to the original, I thought.
Yeah.
The doctor, for example, the experimenting doctor in the original movie is just kind of like this laughable character, whereas Charles Dance is genuinely menacing in the remake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you would know him from Game of Thrones.
I don't know.
He plays the head king of one of the groups.
Oh, he goes way back to White Mischief, and of course he's
the Lannisters. He's the head of the Lannisters.
Okay, he plays a disgraced doctor in the third Alien movie as well, the one set in the prison.
Yeah, but he has a wonderful voice, a wonderful presence.
Yep,
mature actor,
classically trained.
He must be Australian.
No, I believe he's English.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. Classically trained Shakespearean English actor.
Does a wonderful job in it. He's a crazy doctor, and he's doing all these wild experiments. And I like you said, they use the elevator right in this case. They don't have someone stuck in the elevator. They just crush someone with the elevator.
Squish them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah, the first one really had some big holes in it.
Quite enjoyable, and I would recommend people seeing it.
Good. All right, well, let's move on to our next movie, which I'll bet you don't recommend, Mark. Thanatomorphose, a 2012 French-Canadian movie, written and directed by Eric Falardeau, stars Émile Baudry, Erica Cantieri, and Roche Denis Gagnon. Oh, my goodness, what a mess this thing is. Very quickly, the story revolves around this young woman who has a rather brutal, bonehead boyfriend who's not shy about slapping her around if he feels like it. And
she slaps him, too.
She slaps him first, and then he slaps her a lot harder back. But, yeah, after one evening's lovemaking, she notices a couple of bruises, and she doesn't think anything of it because he's kind of a roughneck. But, these bruises turn into, I don't know.
Festering?
Like gangrene, and she's just...
Oh, it's a wonderful little...
It's a movie about the last week in this woman's life, and she is dying. And
deteriorating.
She's just literally falling to pieces.
Yes.
Starts with her fingernails coming out and her hair. And by the end of the movie, the meat is literally slipping off her bones. It is one of the most gruesome movies I've ever seen, and it doesn't really have a point.
No,
that's somebody said that online. It doesn't have a point.
She's a frustrated sculptress.
Yeah,
and she's trying to work on a piece.
When things go wrong, things go really wrong.
And she has this clique
she
friends.
works in clay, so as she's rotting and she's working in clay, she's pushing pieces of her stuff into the clay.
They have a little party with a number of her friends there, and they're all talking, and it's like this, I don't know, all these friends that she has, and they all some of them see her after the fact, a couple of the guys, her boyfriend and this other guy, and nobody drags her to a hospital or anything.
No, the guy who would like to be her boyfriend does. The 2 times that he sees her, he does say, come on, I'm getting you to the hospital. But she says, no, let's fool around instead. And he says, okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. She's looking like the worst leper in the entire New Testament, and you're going to have sex with her?
Yeah. That's the part that made sense to me.
No, yeah, okay. It is an extremely gruesome movie. Thanatomorphose, which means essentially the changes
decomposition
brought by death.
Yeah, caused by death. She was good looking.
She started off.
Yeah. But quickly deteriorates into this. And it's a slow process. And the movie, on and on without anything happening.
No.
It's like,
except her body breaking down.
Yes, but it's not like a werewolf in London where you see it's just very gradual. Yeah. And there'll be whole scenes where she's just sitting around, moping around, doing nothing. And, and then next thing you know, she's sleeping and doing nothing. And sitting in the hall and doing nothing. And
collapsing to the floor and
doing nothing.
Unconscious and lying there. I do think that there is a kind of a point to the movie. If there is a point to it, I think the point is that because she refuses to take charge of her life, because she refuses to do something to help herself, nobody else is going to help her. And this is true of all of us, isn't it? That if you decide to just, sit in a dark room and mope, then how is anybody else? You expect the government to come in and rescue you? No. You have to look after yourself. And she refuses to look after herself. She weeps at one point about these changes coming over her body, but all she had to do was leave her apartment.
Yes.
That's all she had to do.
Mm-hmm.
She could have phoned 911, but she refuses to help herself, so she continues to rot. To me, it is metaphorical. It is an allegory.
Yeah, definitely. And
but it's a disgusting allegory.
It's a very low budget movie. It's shot for $40,000.
It's done well,
in
though.
Canada, which means that's Quebec. Play money.
Yeah.
Made in 2000.
40,000 in very colorful play money. Yeah.
But probably was a university movie or something like that. I mean,
it felt that way.
It does. It really does. And it's low budget. It's a lot of it's in the dark.
Yes.
It's a very dim movie, so it's like grays and blackness through the whole thing. And
lots of strobing and camera out of focus.
Yeah, there was a couple scenes where you swear that the camera was just a cheap video recorder that kept going in and out of focus.
I think it was.
Yeah, because
somebody's cell phone.
Not even. I don't even think cell phones exist. No, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's not that old a movie. It's just a year and a half old. But I have to say, I'm glad I saw it. I didn't dislike it, disgusting as it is.
It's very slow. It's not an exciting movie.
Yeah, I thought it sort of built. I wanted to see where it was going. I thought it had a good climax.
The last 5 minutes.
I would say the last 20 minutes, because she takes care of a couple of items of business. She gets a little bit of the radical feminist on the guy's asses.
Well, you would think that her brain would be decomposing as well, so, her thoughts wouldn't be...
I don't think she's thinking straight.
Well,
I don't
through the whole thing, from day one, but...
Yeah. Reminded me a little bit of The Fly, when those fingernails start coming out early on. And
was she trying to glue them back on?
Yeah, she does at one point. She uses like that LePage's white glue.
It didn't Elmer's,
work.
It doesn't work very well.
No, it doesn't stick. You can't get that white glue to stick to wet flesh.
No. You need crazy glue, woman.
Staple. The fact that she works in clay and she's been rejected, the artistic community has said, no, you stink. And so she's just in a really dark blue funk. And rather than work to help herself, she just gives up. And this is a movie about really giving up. Her body is given up. Her mind is given up. And her friends don't even care about her.
Does it ever explain why she's rotting?
Why she's sick? No, because if she caught it from her boyfriend is fine.
Yeah.
at least until she finishes with him.
And if you like maggots, this is the movie for you.
Oh, man, there's a lot of bugs in it. Yeah.
Not a lot of flies, just a few.
You hear them.
You hear them.
You don't see the flies, but you hear them buzzing, and the maggots on her.
Yeah.
Like she's a twitching feast for the bugs. Yeah, it's a laugh riot, folks. Now we got another one, which is also a lot of fun. Stitch, 2014 movie, written and directed by Ajay. Stars Shirley Brenner as Colleen, Edward Furlong as Marsden, Tiffany Martin as Lily, Lawrence Mason as Perino. Edward Furlong is the only name that I recognized from this. He goes way back to, he played the kid in the second Terminator movie.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Edward Furlong. And he was a screechy and kind of unpleasant 12-year-old, and he's kind of screechy and unpleasant middle-aged man here. Why don't you tell folks what Stitch is about, Mark?
It's a group of 4 people going out to commune with whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Off to a cabin.
In the desert. This time
Right.
we're in the desert,
Right.
in the middle of nowhere. And they arrive at this place, and this woman is there to greet them and says, here's the house. Well, you're late. Why the hell you make me wait here in the
Right.
desert?
Out here in the open.
And the guy says, well, why didn't you go into the house? She says, I don't go into that house.
Not that house.
Not that one. And she takes off. And one couple has just lost a child. Well,
Right.
I guess she looks like she's like early teens, maybe middle teens.
Oh, yeah.
They lose.
You know, they're a middle-aged couple. They're like in their 40s, I'd say.
They don't look that old. They look like they're in their
daughter
mid-30s.
Edward Furlong looks like he's in his 40s. He looks rough.
Anyway, so they lost their daughter, and I guess a friend of theirs talks them into going into this retreat.
Right.
And doing...
He's a therapist.
Yeah, and he has his girlfriend with him as well?
Yep. I think it's the girlfriend who is their friend, and her boyfriend is this therapist, and he's going to get them out of their depression over losing their child.
Right.
That's the idea of the movie. But what the therapy consists of, basically, is upsetting them and stirring up demons.
Yeah. Now there's
literally in the
there's
case
something
of this
in the
house.
basement.
Yeah.
Behind a metal door.
Of course.
And it trembles the door. I mean,
Yeah, there's bright
and then
lights.
then at some point an evil-looking mask or face appears on the door.
Yeah.
All I can say about this movie is they use a lot of green screen.
Yes.
And you can tell it's green screen.
Yeah.
They stayed in the house, a lot of the scenes, and there's a lightning storm happening outside.
Right.
I mean, it's like every 5 seconds, a bolt of lightning is hitting the ground, and you can just tell that the inside of the house isn't really affected much about the lightning. There is no flashing or anything. You just see it out the windows, and there's lots of windows.
Well, they try to get away from the house at one point. They try
walking away.
And that's not a good idea either, because outside it's hell. They're in the
It's
Twilight
literal.
Zone.
They're out in the desert, and they figure, oh, well, are we going to make it? Are we going to get dehydrated? Or can we make it to the town? Because one of the girls was slashed.
Yes. Well, this is why it's called Stitch. This is the most literal explanation for why the movie is titled Stitch. All of them at one point or another get horrible cuts. Big
gashes.
Great,
right down the side of their face.
Yeah, or on their bodies.
Or on their body, on their
arms,
backs, or their legs.
And very crudely stitched together. I mean, Dr. Frankenstein did much nicer work than is done to them.
And it's this red, bloody, stitched scar.
It's horrible.
And they tend to be fine. It's like...
Yeah, that's like the least of their problems.
Really. What they did is they do a ritual out in the desert, and then they put up bonfire, and they have this skull of looks like a cow or something like a coyote.
Oh, yeah, and you're right. It's
a cow, some steer, some sort, and they put it up on a stick right behind the bonfire, and then things go nuts.
Yeah, they're supposed to be exorcising death, but what seems to happen is they actually bring death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what was it he was trying to get them to chant? Death come for me or something like that?
Yeah, just basically, we're not afraid of death. All the unhappiness that it's caused them, they're going to embrace it and get rid of it that way. Well, they picked the wrong place to have this ritual.
And the wrong weekend, too.
Yeah.
Because it turns out that this storm is happening all over the world.
Yeah.
They get a brief radio announcement that hundreds of thousands of people are being killed by this lightning storm.
Yeah.
And that's about all you know what's going on the outside.
Yeah.
And this thunderstorm's not going away.
So they've brought hell on earth.
They're rushed back to the house by this thunderstorm, and so that they're stuck in the house because they can't leave. If they try to leave, they will be struck down by the lightning.
Yeah.
And now they have to deal with this demon that's in the house. I just found that this storyline was convoluted.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. They were jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
This demon was jumping around, doing odd things here and there, but wasn't consistent.
No.
At all.
The whole movie is inconsistent.
Yeah, and that's what I found about this movie, is the writing was poor writing. So,
yes, it's not a good movie.
It looked okay,
Yeah.
but it just didn't make sense what a lot of things that were going on. And
No.
and it didn't seem to be any kind of strategy.
No, the acting is competent, the directing is adequate, barely, but it is not a well thought out story.
No.
And it felt as if they were sort of making it up as they went along.
Yeah, it's like they got a bunch of green screen guys,
Yeah.
and they just said, okay, act in front of the green screen, and we'll put something behind you.
We'll make it look good later.
Yeah. The monster looked okay.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of cool, but again, inconsistent on what he looked like.
Right.
He would appear as like a gassy blob in some instances. And other times he was solid.
Right.
And, it's like,
All right, well, enough of that. Just want to mention a couple of big-time movies that did well at the Oscars that I'd recommend, but they're not horror movies. But, hey, just because I spent my time watching them, I'm going to give them a mention on the show.
Did you watch the Oscars?
Saw the second half of it.
Yeah. I thought Ellen did some funny things on there, ordering the pizza and all that stuff.
That's when I came in, she was doing the selfie with the other actor.
They broke Twitter.
Yeah. Well, they're claiming they did anyway. So it's a Lone Survivor, written and directed by Peter Berg, stars Mark Wahlberg, Taylor Kitsch, Emil Hirsch, Ben Foster. I really like Ben Foster. I've been a fan of his since 6 Feet Under. And Eric Bana. And that is about a bunch of special forces guys in, I think it's Afghanistan. It might be Iraq, but I think it's Afghanistan. And their struggle to survive. And of course, the title gives it away. Only one of them makes it to the end. Eric Bana plays their boss. Does
he turn into the Hulk?
No, he doesn't. No. And he isn't a Greek soldier either. He's their boss. He's off in another part of the country. And when they need him, he pops into a helicopter with his backups, and they come roaring to the rescue and are immediately shot down. So totally ineffectual. And I have to say, the United States forces really look pathetic in this. They just don't have a handle on anything.
So they're a little bit inept?
They are very inept, and it's not the sort of movie, although they try to do some flag waving in the movie, it seems very ineffectual. It reminded me of Black Hawk Down, which when that movie was shown in the country it takes place in, I think Somalia, the audiences were laughing. They thought it was a comedy. It just shows the ineptitude. Oh, this is also based on a true story, and from what I gather, this is not the way the story really went down.
Oh.
So I didn't think much of Lone Survivor. The Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese's latest movie. He directed it, written by Terrence Winter. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio as an actual weasel, Jordan Belfort. Also stars Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie, Matthew McConaughey, Rob Reiner, and John Bernthal from the first couple of seasons of Walking Dead. I thought this was great. I'm a huge Scorsese fan, and I thought this was one of the best movies that I've seen in the last couple of years.
Really?
So I'd really recommend that one. Yeah, it's timely. It's all about these private banker investment firms just raping people and stealing their money.
Yeah, no, I can't believe they're allowed to do that shit.
Yeah, it's a terrific movie. Another excellent movie written and directed by Ethan and Joel Coen, the great Coen brothers. Inside Llewyn Davis. It stars Oscar Isaac as Llewyn, Carey Mulligan, Justin Timberlake, Ethan Phillips, and John Goodman. John Goodman is a regular with the Coen brothers.
Yeah, he does a lot of things.
Yeah, he's very good in this. Everybody is good in this. I really enjoyed this. It's a sort of a parallel story, early 60s. I think it's set in 61. Takes place in about a week, and you really get to know this would-be folk singer, Llewyn Davis, and it parallels a sort of a Bob Dylan story. And in fact, Bob Dylan pops up at one point.
Does he?
You realize that, okay, one is going to make it and one isn't. And here's one that Mark and I have both seen, Dallas Buyers Club, directed by Jean-Marc Vallée, written by Craig Borton and Melissa Wallach. It stars, again, Matthew McConaughey, Jennifer Garner, Jared Leto, Steve Zahn, and Griffin Dunn. Jared Leto won Best Supporting Actor.
Yep.
And McConaughey won for Best Actor, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, God, anyone that wants to lose that much weight.
What do you lose, like 40 pounds or something?
He just looked like death
Yeah,
walking.
and he did Wolf of Wall Street shortly after he had done Dallas Buyers Club, and he still looks sick as hell.
Yeah.
He's so skinny, he does not look well.
Yeah, he's sort of recovering by the time he was at the Oscars. He's still looking skinny, but not as skinny.
No, he looks absolutely terrible. He looks exactly like someone who has AIDS, which is what he's playing in this.
Yeah.
HIV/AIDS.
I mean, it's not like Captain America where they did the CGI stuff.
Yeah.
He actually took off the weight.
Yeah, a few actors will do that. Christian Bale did it for it was the movie The Machinist, I think it's called. And of course on the other side you had Robert De Niro gaining 40, 50, 60 pounds in Raging Bull.
Yeah.
He did it by eating cheeseburgers. I don't know how McConaughey lost all that weight, but it's painful.
I would say stop eating.
Yeah.
Just
no
eat
Big Macs.
a little cup of tea once in a while.
It's just terrible.
Keep yourself hydrated.
But good movie, hey?
Oh, yeah.
Harrowing.
Depressing as hell.
Yeah.
The stupidity behind the FDA.
Yeah.
And
the medical establishment.
Yeah, it's all...
People are dying. Why not throw the experimental drugs at more of them?
Especially when other people in Europe and other continents are having success with these drugs, and they refuse to let them in. Yeah. And it's all because of big pharma.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's all politics and all the stuff that happens in D.C. that will prevent people from doing the right thing.
Based on the true story, Ron Woodruff being a McConaughey character, he sort of invents the cocktail. The drug cocktail. This drug does such and such, and another drug does such and such, and this one does something else. And so you take all of them. And this was the beginning of the HIV cocktail, which has indeed kept a lot of people alive.
For longer.
Yeah, much longer. In fact, practically normal lives.
You don't hear much about AIDS anymore.
Well, it's because it's manageable now. I mean, it's a death sentence eventually, but you can manage it. But
but how bad
then you're fighting cancers.
But the thing is, if they're not mentioning it on TV and news and things like that, you tend to forget it's there. It's like herpes and things like that. These things are incurable.
Yeah.
And yet, how much of the percentage of the population has it?
Right,
I mean, it's like we're not hearing those statistics anymore. Yeah. They're not scaring people away from unprotected sex.
I know. This is really dangerous. Young people in particular are very careless, and of course their lives are still at great risk.
Yeah.
Be careful, kids. If you're going to use it, wrap it up.
Yeah. So this movie is like one of those reminders that, it's still around.
Yeah, of course.
It is still a going concern.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, so I think we're going to wrap it up. So Walking Dead, of course, Mark and I like it, although Mark, I think, is finding this season a little dull.
Yeah, duller. Okay, I've seen zombies get killed.
Right.
I've seen people get swarmed.
Right.
I want to get on with the story.
I agree. I was getting a little tired of the prison. I'm glad they're out of the prison.
Yeah.
Playing house there, that was getting a little old.
Get to where you're going.
But I like the group dynamic. I want to see some of all of them in each episode rather than this episodic stuff that is happening right now. But I think that by the end of this season, they're going to bring everybody together in Terminus, and we're going to
have an Armageddon.
Either a new governor or something akin to normalcy, and of course the next season we'll wait for everything to fall to pieces again.
What I want to do is I want to see them make some inroads on what the problem is, what's causing the zombies.
Well, of course, that's something we didn't mention. They do. Glenn and what's her name were rescued by these three people, one of whom is military, he's sergeant, and he is bringing the scientist. He wants to take him to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
I don't know who the hell is still working in Washington. Barack Obama's hiding in the basement of the White House. But this guy supposedly has a handle on what caused it and how to fix it.
Yeah.
Now,
I would like to explore that.
I would really like to know what's happening there, but we haven't seen those guys in a couple of episodes. So.
Yeah, so does it go anywhere?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Indeed.
Yes.
Robocop, we'll talk more about that. I liked it, but ultimately, what's the point? The Howling, 1981 movie.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. Yep.
It's a 80s classic.
It is. It's a better werewolf movie than Twilight movies, but not as good as American Werewolf in London.
No, which came out the same year, by the way.
Yes, much better movie.
Yeah.
Thanatomorphose.
Whoa.
Hard to watch, but I liked it.
It is hard to watch, and I just thought it was very slow, but then it's one of those type of movies.
It is. It isn't a thriller.
No.
Stitch, I think we both agree that was kind of stinker.
Yeah. Poor writing.
Yeah. And I already said I liked the remake of Patrick, and Mark
I agree.
Did too. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to wrap it up, folks. Hope you've been listening this whole time. Otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves.